Alright guys, welcome back to Jessica Jones Reviews. We are on the second to last episode, which I believe they call it, what they call the penultimate episode? I don't know. Anyway, so this is episode 12, aka Take a Bloody Number, which is a great line. So yeah, this one, it kind of sets the stage for the finale. It's a pretty good episode. There are a couple parts that annoyed the shit out of me, and I'm going to talk about those in detail. I'll admit this is another episode I watched twice, so probably didn't have as strong as an impact on me the second time I watched it, but a few things did stick out, which is, this episode, by the way, almost immediately addresses a issue I had with last week's episode about how they never quite explained how Luke and Kilgrave somehow found each other. The next episode literally, like, almost immediately starts with explain what happens. I was like, oh, okay, well, at least they covered their tracks on that one. I still would have liked a little bit more setup in the previous episode, but this one made up for it, because, what else can I really say about David Tennant at this point? I mean, he steals the show in every goddamn scene he's in. I have given him every compliment under the moon at this point. I'm not sure what else I can really say to his credit that I haven't already said in this series. So I'm just going to stick with how his character the dynamic of his character in this episode is very different from what I've seen before. Because in this one, we have a very powerless Kilgrave. This one is a man who has lost his power in this relationship and is desperate to try and get it back. People pick the worst time to text me. Anyway, I really should turn my phone when I do these, but anyway, I digress. But in this case, goes his whole thing. He hasn't killed his father yet, and he's trying to use him and using the stem cells, I guess, from his aborted baby. And they kind of glossed over that fact to try to increase his powers. So in this case, he's testing them out. So he tries to how longer they last, how much like what they call it. Basically, they're trying to test out the time and distance his powers can have and trying to increase them tenfold so he becomes stronger and so he can eventually regain control of Jessica Jones once and for all. Meanwhile, though, Jessica Jones and Luke Cage have teamed back up, and Luke Cage seems pretty okay with everything now, and kind of hard to not see why after he's been directly influenced by Kilgrave at this point. And they're working together to try to track down Kilgrave and try to finally kill the little bastard once and for all. And there's a couple other subplots that really are the source of my annoyance in this episode. Let me focus on what I liked first. First off, again, David Tennant, fantastic. There's really not much else I can say about him at this point. But I do want to point out that Luke Cage and Jessica Jones are a duo I can watch for fucking days. I mean, they have such great chemistry, and they work so well together. It's like, they did, the casting, like, I almost feel like they had to have them in a room together when they cast these two people, just see if they did have that chemistry. And if that's the case, I'm glad they did, because they have, I could just watch these two having a Netflix and chill night, and I'd be perfectly happy. Not because of the porno reasons, but because, like, they just work off each other so well, and they just perfectly mesh together. So I'm really happy. The guy that played Luke Cage is goddamn perfect. He is fucking perfect for this part, and it's so wonderful to watch every scene they're on screen together. And even then, their conversations are so great. Their interactions are so great. And the way they work off each other, each other's quirks, how they make up each other's flaws, how they work with each other's strengths, how they trust each other, how they want to work alongside each other. Which surprisingly was not undone by the twist at the end of the episode. Before I get into that, which was a phenomenal finale, I will say, even as weak as some of the other plots of these episodes are, they almost always make it up with a fantastic final scene. And this episode is no exception. Okay, now for the shit that annoyed me. Fucking Robin, man. Why do they keep trying to convince me to like this character? It didn't work the first 5 times. It's not gonna work another 5 fucking times. I am so sick of this character. They could have gotten rid of her an episode ago, and it would have been fine. She did not need to come back, but they keep bringing her back for some reason. Now, I guess the point is because Malcolm is back in this episode, and thank God I like Malcolm. It's the only reason the scenes are even remotely okay with me. Is that it's mostly because Malcolm in the previous episode, because of Robin, because he listened to her for some reason. I don't know why you would listen to her. She's fucking out of her mind. It's so infuriating. She's such a completely unlikable human being, an unlikable character. She's just unpleasant every scene she's in. She's unlikable in every scene she's in, and yet they still keep trying to make me feel sorry for her. No! No. Like, I don't know who wrote this character, why they're so invested in making me like her. It's not... If this character pops up in season 2, I'm fucking done. No, I'm not. But, I find her so frustrating. Anyway, the reason is Malcolm, I guess, kind of has a change of heart, because this is during the last episode, and has kind of decided that, you know, he doesn't want any part of this. He wants to move on with his life. He wants to move out of the apartment. He wants to go back home with his family, find a new life there, and honestly, I was kind of rooting for him to do that, because he has this interesting scene early on in the episode where he runs into Jessica Jones and Luke Cage. They're leaving the apartment. He's walking back into the apartment with a rollaway bag, and she's like, "Hey, what you doing?" He goes, "Okay, look, I've been through some serious shit, and I am fucking done with this, and I don't like feeling. I want to go back among my family, who probably thinks I'm a fucking waste of space at this point. I want to start a new life there. I want to show them I can be better, and I want to be happy over there, and I want to get away from just the overwhelming loneliness I feel around you, which I know is supposed to feel like a burn, but I kind of just felt like it, like, yeah, okay. Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. You know, maybe you're better off. Go home, dude. Like, I feel like just being around her all that time, I could totally see why that'd be draining. You deserve a happy ending, Malcolm. Go home. Go find a new life. You get the fuck out of New York in this piece of shit apartment complex. Be happy. Be a good person. You are a good person. You deserve to be happy. Just honestly, I was kind of rooting for him to leave. Not because I want the character gone, because I like the character, just because I felt like the damn person deserved a happy ending. But no, he gets dragged into it because of fucking Robin's a fuck up, and she's intolerant. He seems determined to help her, and I'm just gonna tell you right now. And this is like, this is what I kind of noticed the second time watching this, is the show is slightly hypocritical when it comes to the character of Robin. And I'm going to explain why. Because everything they have shown, like, everything up to this point has been very, very, very put-downy about abusive people for good reason. It has gone into great lengths. It has gone to great depth, pretty much like every kind of horrible abuse people can handle, and why you should never tolerate, and how you can rise above it if you're a victim of it. That's basically what the show's all about. Yeah, with this character, it's kind of baffling in retrospect, because every scene we've seen her in, especially with her and her brother, has shown that she is abusive to him in some way, whether it's verbally or maybe even physically. I mean, she directly says in dialogue in this episode that, oh, he wasn't allowed to do this. I wouldn't let him do this. I wouldn't let him do that. Oh, he didn't have my permission to do this, or stuff like that. And every scene where they're on screen together, she's yelling at him. She's yelling over anything, everything. She's horribly abusive to him. And yet, for some reason, she's the one we're supposed to be sympathetic towards. And I don't get that. And I'm not even sure the show realizes that's what it's doing. And I don't know, maybe they'll do something with it in the finale. I don't know, but it's a little alarming to me, the fact that the hypocrisy exists, especially in a show that's been so very careful to not do shit like that up to this point. I don't know, like, that's the one thing where I'm like, that's a little baffling to me. That's a little baffling. So, I don't know, maybe just write off as just one of those tiny... I'm not even sure I can call it a tiny thing, though, because, again, the entire point of the show is to talk about abusive relationships of all shapes and sizes, and just show how wrong they are, and really aren't worth... These people involved in it aren't worth being sympathetic towards. Like, even when Kilgrave, they brought out his backstory, you almost feel disgusted when you even feel remotely sad for him. Which I believe was the intention. So you go from that to this, where they clearly want you to be supportive and sympathetic to this character, but she was horribly abusive. She's still horribly abusive to everyone she talks about. And we're supposed to feel sorry for her because she's aware that nobody likes her, and she feels sad about it. Aw. She starts crying and goes, "Nobody likes me." I'm like, good. Nobody should fucking like you, because you are a fucking intolerable human being. I hate this character so much. But yeah, the other part that bothered me. The other, like, at this point, especially since we're so close to the finale, like, these tangents the show goes on are becoming more and more annoying, because, like, no, go back to Jessica Jones and Luke Cage, go back to what's going on with Kilgrave, focus on that stuff. We don't need this shit. We don't need it. I mean, the Malcolm scenes were good, but we don't need them. We could have easily cut that out. And the other thing we could have cut out, because it does feel like it's largely just set up for season 2, or maybe even the Defenders. I don't know. But Trish is recovering in the hospital, and her abusive mom, breaking her restraining order, comes to pay her a visit and tries to wean her way back into her life, which is again a plotline we don't necessarily need at this point in the game. Although I will give it a little credit for again highlighting a different phase of abusive relationships. But at this point, because it feels like her entire existence in this episode was to set up parts for next season, because it's all about how the organization that I guess took Nuke away also works for like an imaginary corporation like HGH, something like that. And she realized like, oh wait, they might have a connection to Jessica's past and why she has powers and stuff like that. But that all just felt like set up for season 2. Like, I felt like you didn't need to put this here. You could have put this aside until... Really could have left this out completely until season 2. You could have easily done that. But, I don't know, again, we'll see what it just feels unnecessary at this point to have these kind of tangents, especially after they've carefully wrapped everything else up. It's like, we don't need a new storyline here. We don't need that else. We just need to focus on the main crux of the story, which is Jessica Jones versus Kilgrave. But again, all that stuff I'm willing to overlook because the stuff that the rest of it is phenomenal. So, long story short, Luke Cage and Jessica Jones track Kilgrave to his, like, I guess what he calls his testing arena, because that's where he's testing the extent of his new powers. Where it's revealed that Kilgrave was influencing Luke Cage the entire time because his range had gone up a lot. Oh, before that point, I gotta make mention of one other thing, though. There's a scene early on where Jessica Jones realizes that he needs chemicals to advance whatever the hell he's doing with his brain. So they track the chemicals down to this warehouse where they find a guy who comes to pick up the drugs and then starts walking to meet Kilgrave. So Jessica Jones tails him. But there's a part where I guess like after he delivers the drugs, the guy was supposed to kill himself. And he does so by grabbing a pair of shears that are lying in like, I don't know what you call it, like the park. And literally like falls over and lands on the shears, and I couldn't stop like making a kind of, I don't want to call it cynical, morbid laugh when I could think of that scene from Hot Fuzz, and it's like, how'd he die? He tripped and fell over on his own shears. Shit like that. I was like, oh, so you actually can trip over and fall on your own shears. Oh, that does happen. Although either that or it kind of reminded me of a scene I would see in The Happening. Like I felt like I almost seen this scene in The Happening. Granted, I've never seen it happening all the way through, but it feels like it would be apart from that. But anyway, what all this builds up to is it's a big reveal that Kilgrave's been influencing Luke Cage the entire time, and a lot of the tender moments that they had were actually orchestrated by Kilgrave. And as this big kind of fuck you for fucking another guy in my presence, even then Luke Cage and Kilgrave have a great scene in the car beforehand, where at this point Kilgrave seems pretty fucking desperate, and now that he knows Luke Cage, who Luke Cage is, and knows that he slept with Jessica, sorry, he's convinced that he's the reason why he never stood a chance. And I thought that was very, very interesting that they did that. And again, a kind of another realistic part of people, abusive partners, is the fact that they will blame everything else except themselves for how things have ended up. But anyway, what it leads to is a phenomenal fight scene between Luke Cage and Jessica Jones, as they are just, well, more Luke Cage, are beating the shit out of each other. And Jessica Jones, like, is trying to, like, it doesn't want to hurt him because he's Luke Cage. But at least Luke Cage is punching through walls and grabbing her and throwing her through walls. And Either just reaches around and just grabs her through a wall and all shit. Things are getting thrown everywhere. Things being torn apart. There's a part where, like, Jessica Jones, like, rips off a car door, uses a shield, and he's fucking pounding against the car. So like, you ain't gonna stop me, motherfuckers. It's fucking great. It's a phenomenal fight scene. And it made me realize how little actual, like, super heroic fight scenes we've seen in the show up to this point. Because there really haven't that many Marvel villains in this movie, TV show. At least not many, like, we had an occasional, like, handful of thugs here and there, but there's only been, like, 2 villains, I think, that were actually from the comic books. One was, like, Nuke, obviously, and we had Kilgrave. Daredevil had quite a few, maybe not the right characters from the comic books, but they definitely were, like, almost like boss characters, like gang leaders that Daredevil was going to end up facing at one point or another. This one didn't have that. This one just had like Nuke and Kilgrave. That's really about it. So to see like a superhero fight like this and see it so good, I was like, okay, you know what? I didn't need any other villains. I'm happy with what I got here because this is fucking great. So that was a fantastic fucking fight scene, and I'm curious to see where they go. I'm dying to see the finale. I just want to watch it now, so I think I might just do that. I think I've kind of said my piece. Really good episode. It's a good lead into the finale, despite the unnecessary tangents. Hopefully the finale won't have as many tangents in them, but we'll see. I guess I gotta try to wrap everything else they got going on now, so I'm sure I'll get at least one or two. So yeah, I'm just gonna stop talking now and see the finale. So see you all in the final episode. Bye!